There are way too many parties in South Africa. How many of you agree with that statement? I'm sure it's a lot. I've heard so many people complain about the amount of parties in South Africa, but I actually don't agree at all, even though I just said it right now. Since, I don't know, 2025, there have been 805 registered parties. In other words, they're registered with the Independent Electoral Commission, and they are recognized legitimate parties across South Africa. And that is a lot. Up until a while ago, it was only around 500 registered altogether. And I've heard many people in everything that we've done politically on the ground complain about the amount of parties that exist. And I would like to know from you why. Please state in the comments the reason why you think so many parties is a bad idea. Is it perhaps because you feel they are diluting the opposition? What opposition? Is it perhaps because you feel like it's undermining our democracy? I'd love to know your real reason, not just a statement that people just say because it's kind of what they've heard and they're just regurgitating what they've heard. I think a lot of people speak without thinking. And I think the more parties we have, the better. 805 sounds like a lot. How big is our population? It's rather big. I think we have around 16 million last time I checked. The other thing that is important to note is that of the 805 registered political parties, it's only around 295 that are nationally registered. In other words, they are able to nationally contest. All the rest are very local. So they might have a stronghold in a specific municipality in a specific area, or maybe a couple of areas in a province. But the vast majority are strictly local, while only 295 are national. And then of that 295 that are national, if you look at the 2024 elections, only 50 contested. So only 50 were able to conjure up the signature requirement of 14,000 signatures. That was the requirement. And only 50, it was a bit more than 50, were able to conjure up the, 250,000 or 300,000 Rand minimum fee. If they also contested the provincial government as well, then the fees would have been even more. If they were just contesting nationally, it was around 300,000. So of the 295 that are nationally registered, 50 something were able to raise the money and get the signatures to actually contest to be on the ballot paper. So how is that a bad thing? And how is that undermining democracy? So let's just take it a few steps back. The government, and by the government, I mean the ANC and the Democratic Alliance, who are in partnership with the GNU, have been conspiring behind the scenes to make sure that new parties cannot get into government. How are they doing this? By proposing a new legislation that will ensure that in order to obtain a seat, you have to have 1% of the vote. Currently, that is not the case. You only need around 0.1% actually to get a seat in many local councils as well as national government, parliament and provincial legislature. And so if this new legislation passes, what this will mean is that a lot of the parties currently in parliament or even in your local councils, they might fall away. And there might be parties you support, like, or even vote for, and they might fall away. So this is not democratic. So let's talk about why this is not democratic quickly. Firstly, so what is the opposite of having lots and lots of parties? I think the opposite of having lots and lots of parties would probably be to enter into a two-party state. Now, our constitution says we are a multi-party democracy. So does two qualify as multi-party democracy? I guess so. Some people have said a two-party state would be better, and I think it would be an absolute catastrophe. It would be closer to a dictatorship. The less parties there are, the more control there is over people, and we do not want that. So what happens if the two parties that are in charge, or maybe it's not a two-party state, maybe there's 3, 4, 5 parties, maybe there's 10 parties. What if they're all funded by the same people? It's so much easier to fund 10 parties than it is to fund a whole bunch of independents, which is what we're advocating for. And so what would be the alternative? People complain about the amount of parties, and also people are not voting at the same time. So there's a little bit of a contradiction going on there. But what is the alternative? The reason there are so many parties springing up is because the wrong parties are in charge. And now because the wrong parties have power and people are unhappy with the system, when they see other parties trying something, then all of a sudden it's a problem. All of a sudden it's diluting the opposition or undermining our democracy or whatever the excuse is. The Constitution says that every South African has a right to participate in elections and to stand for public office. And how do people do so? Currently, in the current system, you join a party or you start a party. That's how it's been up until very recently, when a new bill was proposed and passed that allows independents to run for public office, even at national level, not just at local level anymore, but also at national level. So that was an interesting one. I have my own thoughts and comments on that. I say either be in the party system or be in a system where there's only independents. We shouldn't mix it. So currently we have the PR system in Parliament. As long as we have the system that we have, as long as we have the multi-party system that we have, we are in an ideological political culture instead of a merit-based culture where someone's voted in, an independent is voted in to represent a region because they're competent. That's what we envision. We're not in that system. As long as we are in the system that we are, it's ideological based. So the more parties, the better. If you have a look at the 2019 results, you'll see that, very interestingly, the ANC had a huge share. I think it's 57%, and that's quite a lot. And that dropped dramatically in the next national election. So the ANC had 57.5% of the vote, which gave them 230 seats. The DA had 20.77% of the vote, which gave them 84 seats. The EFF had 10.8% of the votes, which gave them 44 seats, and so on. Parliament is made up of 400 seats. In the 2024 elections, everyone dropped dramatically. The voter turnout was worse. And the ANC had 39%, and the DA had 21%. And the MK, a surprising contender, had 14%, and the EFF dropped to 9%, which is shocking. So what do you think 2029 holds? But that's a topic for another video. So this is how it's currently divided. And people are saying, oh my goodness, there are too many parties in South Africa. It's a disaster. It's not a disaster. What we want to see are more parties. Instead of just having 18 parties in National Assembly, we want to see more parties in the current system. So yes, of course, the Organic Humanity Movement wants to change everything. We want to change how we want to change how politics is done in South Africa. We want to get rid of political parties, or at least the official recognition of political parties in South Africa. And it's going to be amazing and transformative and beautiful. But right now we are in the political system, the multi-party system that we have. And as long as we're in the multi-party system that we have, of the 400 seats that exist in National Assembly, we should have 400 parties, with each party occupying one seat. That would be the ideal case. The next space would just be to have, I don't know, 40 parties with 10 seats each, or 20 parties with 20 seats each, representing a much broader spectrum of ideology and hopefully also more competence. This way they will hold each other more accountable. But right now we actually have, with the current setup of the GNU, with the voter turnout getting smaller and smaller, and with the parties having to coalesce together to hold on to power, what we have is an absolute dictatorship, and it's not good. It's not good for democracy. It's not democratic. And if we want to move towards democratic principles and democratic ways of thinking, we should not be criticizing the fact that there are lots of parties in South Africa. In fact, I admire people that just spring up out of nowhere starting a political party, because at least they are trying to do something beyond just complaining about the situation in South Africa. They're actually trying. But with everything I've said, please let me know in the comments what your thoughts are. Were you someone, or are you someone that believes there are too many parties in South Africa? And I really want to know why. Change my mind. I say the more parties, the better in the current system. It's less control, it's more accountability. And we need to do a lot more to bolster and increase the scope and expansion of the smaller parties that get no media coverage, no funding, or nothing. So convince me, change my mind. Why is it a bad thing that there are so many parties? Please give me a reason. Analyze your reason why. I think it's very important that we get to the bottom of where this what I would call a limited and false belief comes from. I'm the founder of the Organic Humanity Movement. The Organic Humanity Movement is a nationally registered political party, so we are one of those new parties that are throwing a spanner in the works, and we're not that new. We've contested quite a number of elections. No, not quite a number. We've contested quite a number of by-elections, but we've also contested the 2019 2021 local government elections and the 2024 national elections. And we're obviously going to be contesting the elections coming up now in 2026. I think it's happening somewhere around November. That's what we're anticipating. And we're really looking forward to it. But besides contesting elections, we just see that as a stepping stone to a much broader vision of making sure that as individuals in South Africa and in the world, that we truly hold power over our own lives, and we reject government control, corporate control, and global control. And we just want to create a country, firstly, because it's a starting point, a sovereign country that's very strong and that's able to create a good life for all the citizens that live inside of it, and also guard against all the international threats that are happening abroad. And as we do that, we hope that we can actually change the entire world for the better. You can visit our website, om.org.za, to read our manifesto, learn more about how we want to change the system. So many exciting changes. And then we are on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, called X now, Substack, and of course this YouTube. And you can get involved, you can become a member, you can sign up to receive a newsletter, and you can help us win the elections by being involved instead of complaining about the political situation. We provide a framework in which you don't have to participate in the ugly side of politics, but you can rather just join a movement where all of us equally work towards liberating South Africa from these oppressive systems.